Yeah, I think it's such an interesting time in this space because where there might have been more skepticism, especially at a law firm where your time is billed in 6-minute increments, to dedicating time and resources to DE&I, now we're seeing some pressure from clients, some external pressure that really sends home the business case for the importance of diversity and for supporting DE&I from a retention perspective. And I think Beveridge Diamond is unique in that we've always embraced DE&I as core principles that are important to the firm. But were there any naysayers? It's now, we're really seeing that clients are bringing down the hammer.
We're going to be talking about DEI initiatives. To start off with that, could you give us a basic definition for people who maybe aren't familiar with it, and then tie us into how that relates to law firm operations?
I'm a shareholder at Beveridge Diamond. We're an environmental law firm, and I'm based out of Washington, D.C. As you mentioned, a large part of my practice involves counseling clients on environmental justice, so identifying risks, opportunities, and helping them incorporate EJ in their work. And I should mention my one of the other hats that I wear at the firm, besides a shareholder, is also chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. So that's sort of my DE&I hat. I've been in the committee for the 10 years on and off that I've been at the firm. So for DE&I, in terms of definitions, I hate to give you the lawyer answer, but it's an it depends kind of thing, right? So DE&I efforts are defined in such a broad variety of ways, and they're very unique to each organization. So some orgs call it DE&I, some say DEIA to include accessibility. And there's variations on the theme, but at B&D, DE&I is really focused on building and fostering an inclusive culture that allows everyone to be their authentic selves at work, removing obstacles that inhibit equal opportunities for all, and promoting and supporting those from historically underrepresented groups. That's one of the traditional DE&I bucket. So defined by race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, or otherwise. So
when a firm is looking to measure their success, is there any indicators? I imagine it probably depends on what exactly they're tasked with or what their initiative is, but is there anything that overall could help measure that success?
It's funny because coming to this with the DE&I hat, but also doing ESG work, we think a lot about metrics and a lot about how do you set targets and measure your progress and hold yourself accountable. And because we're so small, we're fewer than 150 lawyers or so, we partner a lot. And we use third-party groups that are really specialized in this work and specialized in best practices for law firms to measure our progress and hold ourselves accountable. We're Mansfield 5.0 certified, we're Mansfield Plus. And that means that not only do we consider certain underrepresented groups for 30%, at least 30% of all significant leadership roles, lateral recruiting, and business development opportunities, we actually exceeded that for the Plus certification. We exceeded that requirement by actually achieving 30% or more representation. So that's been a program we've been involved in at least the last 4 or 5 years. And it's something that the requirements continue to elevate every year. So it's really an incredible way to not only track our progress, but also keep ourselves challenged, because the metrics, the goalposts continue to move to keep us challenged and leaning forward into this kind of work.
While we're talking about Beveridge and Diamond specifically, I know you mentioned the tone from the beginning was very inclusive. Is there any additional training or education that is provided to employees?
We created a working parents group because we had a women's committee initially, and the women's committee was dealing with a lot of coming together to talk about all the challenges that women inherently face. But we were also finding that we had a lot of men who were parents as well, who were kind of, still tackling a lot of these challenging issues, especially coming into the pandemic when we're all working remotely. And I have 2 young kids under 3. It's a challenge, it's a journey. And actually having that community to talk about what kind of resources we might need, how we might support one another, how we can share best practices and lessons learned, and just support each other in the work environment, which is inherently stressful in a law firm. I think it's really important for our community to really think about effective practices here. so that we generate and support more diverse communities, so that we have more diversity of thought, as well as other types of diversity in the way that we solve problems and do our work.